There you are, ghoulies. Well, we've got a special episode tonight. It's Area 1051 Television. We're breaking new ground here. Always got to do that. Bringing radio to television, television to radio, and whatever happens.
Everything in between.
There you go. Morbetta joins me once again. And a very special guest, Bob Weiss, has invited us up here. A very nice day in front of Shakers. Having a great time here. Had a few beverages before. Not too many, but no, you know.
Honored to have you guys up, of course. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, great to come up here once again. One of our favorite places to shoot episodes of the Crimson Theater as well. This show has a little more of a darker tone, though, than most. At least from a Crimson Theater angle, because, well, the popularity of Jeffrey Dahmer is at its height right now with a new series that had come out, and we decided we were going to do Area 1051 Television, Jeffrey Dahmer, from the man who knew him. So I believe you have an interesting perspective on the Dahmer story, and you do your Dahmer tours. So where do you want to begin with your story on Dahmer?
I want to begin by saying that the newest Netflix piece on this, The Confessions of a Serial Killer, is really well done. So as opposed to the piece that was out maybe 2 weeks ago that's much more of a Hollywood and slick production, this really talks to the people that were involved with the case and really is a well-designed, well-choreographed piece of actual people that were participating, whether it's on the judiciary or the reporters or something else. So that being said, there is actually some very legitimate material out there on Jeffrey Dahmer. And then, of course, there's the other piece that has been playing for the last 2 weeks, which is a typical Hollywood kind of a thing. Now, as far as knowing Jeffrey Dahmer, no, I'm not sure anyone actually knew him. I certainly did not. All that my interaction was beginning in January of 1991. We noticed this very unusual guy walking into Shakers. So we are well known for our association with not just the federal government and special agents, but with the judiciary, major law firms, whatever. That really is our bread and butter. And here's this other guy that walks in that has none of the above going on with that. And he looked different, and he acted much different. And he had these really intense eyes. Now, the thing about Shakers is that in the 3 decades that we've been open, we've had virtually only women working there, with 1 or 2 exceptions. Myself, 1 or 2 of the cooks, maybe a tour guide, something like that. But everybody else is female. This person, Mr. Dahmer, would not allow any of the women to make his cocktail for him. So he'd walk in the middle of the afternoon. He was a gin and tonic guy at that time. And he was adamant that myself or my sous chef would come out of the kitchen and to make his gin and tonic. No conversation. Just these eyes that would bore into you. I will not forget those eyes.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy. I remember when they first started, the story started breaking, and there was different individuals that we knew that we didn't know where they were, and we still don't know how many perhaps that he did have that we don't know about. But what is it about Wisconsin? I mean, we had the lady that cut off the guy's head last fall, and recently something very similar in another state. But we've had Ed Gein, and you do the Dahmer tours, and well, we've talked about this before, but it's no surprise that young women seem to be very attracted to the Dahmer story.
Yes, that's a national phenomenon, actually. So we got other divisions in Los Angeles and in Savannah, Georgia as well, and the same situation takes place there. So women 23, 25 to 40 years old are really into serial killers, and to the degree that one of the previous Netflix things that was shot there, Dark Tourist at Shakers, went to 8 locations in the world. We're one of those. But there are women that are talking about if Dahmer was alive, they'd like to date him. So there's something bizarre, and maybe it's part of that repressed sexuality in Wisconsin as well, or it's the radon in the water, or it's just something else. I'm not sure what it could be.
I really don't understand that. The same thing.
The cold seems to do something to people.
I knew a couple people that used to buy paintings from John Wayne Gacy, and he would sell them the paintings, and they use them for album covers and everything else like that too. So they wanted right to serial killers and whatnot. And of course, Charles Manson was the same thing. Didn't he get married while he was in prison?
He did.
So, but you know, I guess Manson's story is a little bit different though, because you know, I don't know if he actually committed it. He just told people what to do, didn't he?
You know, there's some recent things out on Manson as well, and mostly regarding his time in front of different parole boards. And if you can get past just the persona, there's some lucidity taking place there that I have not been exposed to for the previous 30 years of just researching him. And to hear him talk at some points, this guy really could be not much different than somebody who's running for president, perhaps.
Oh, very persuasive individual for sure.
Indeed.
Absolutely. And of course, the perhaps the media and the government used the Manson story as propaganda to put the nail in the coffin on the '60s movement. That's for sure.
Perhaps.
And I remember myself as a kid getting wrapped up into that and was terrified of I saw the Manson 2-part special that was on television, and that was really scary. We had some Manson-esque neighbors in the neighborhood, which made me very worried, you know. And then we basically had a local story of a guy whacked out on drugs that killed his neighbor lady right over there by Washington Bowl. So, did you remember that story?
I do.
Okay, she worked at Piggly Wiggly in Kenosha, so I
Did
knew
she?
her.
Oh,
yeah, I
yes.
knew who she was. That was about the end of that for me right there. As a kid, I was really terrified. I also was always terrified that a gorilla was going to break out of the Racine Zoo, and he's going to break out of the Racine Zoo and come to my house in particular, just me. He's coming for me, and the window was right next to the bed. I thought the gorilla was coming. Childhood memories, you know.
What fun!
Huh?
What fun!
Yes, but back to the Dahmer story. So, how did it end up that finally, when he was caught, and you realized that you had this man in your presence?
Yeah, so it's July of 1991, and it's a typical Milwaukee hot, humid kind of a situation taking place. And being a copper bar, there's a flurry of activity on that particular night, 21st, 22nd of July. You know, nobody really knows what's going on, but there's something taking place, right? So the next morning, probably 7 o'clock, and I'm there until 2 o'clock in the morning. And at 7 o'clock or so, I get a phone call from one of the federal agents that I've known for years and says, "Would you mind opening early?" And I said, "No, like, 10 o'clock instead of noon." He says, "How about now?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could drive down." So I drive down, and I'm standing behind the bar, bleary-eyed, drinking a coffee, and there's maybe a dozen people that are there. So the feds are there, DOJ is there, the district attorney's office is there, a couple of detectives are there, and they had 2 local media people. And the concept, I guess, is that they wanted to break the story to the local media before all the national people arrived. So they've got the mugshots, and they're handing out the mugshots, and I'm, again, standing behind the bar kind of thing, and they're all queued up at the front bar at Shakers, and then the mugshot comes in front of me, and I'm like, time out. I recognize this guy, and here's my story on this. So there was never any other association. Nobody else knew anything prior to that time. It's just that there's this weird guy. Who's this weird guy right here?
You get those. I mean, you notice right away sometimes something not right with somebody, and
Sometimes you see that with some people. Sometimes, yeah.
occasionally you get
Occasionally.
a weirdo. Once in a while you get a weirdo up there, but it's a good place.
So the Cream City Cannibal Tour is something that we've done for years now, and we've gone from having 2 per weekend to 10 per weekend, and they by and large are 15 people, sometimes 18 or 20. They're all sold out, and we are for some time in the future as well. And this other Confessions of a Serial Killer is just going to continue that process. The thing that's different about our tours, though, is that we rigorously research everything and consider ourselves more to be docents, as if we're in a museum. And this is not the New Orleans, drunk tour kind of a thing. And we literally have special agents from the Bureau that come here from Quantico who are studying serial killers to take our Cream City Cannibal Tour. Or even we work with different psych departments at different universities and criminal justice, because there were a lot of errors that took place everywhere. And we cover those things. So it is an educational tour.
Okay.
And it's gruesome.
It is gruesome. It is gruesome, but people keep coming for it, don't they?
They sure do.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
And now
Please.
you do many things up at Shakers. It's a haunted speakeasy. Let's maybe lighten it up a little bit and talk about some of the fun things that happen at Shakers in Milwaukee.
So, well, before that, though, in 1894, this building was constructed. This was a cooperage house for Schlitz. They made wooden barrels here. And that really became, of course, obsolete once Prohibition reared its ugly head. The great social experiment of Prohibition. So the building shut down. No reason to have beer barrels being made. 2 years later, the Capones came up from Chicago and acquired the property and put a speakeasy in the back. Beautiful mahogany bar, Italian tile, it's just gorgeous, and put a brothel on the second and third floor. So that remained until 1946, well after Prohibition, by the way, but obviously a very lucrative concept. Now, before that, Shakers is built upon one of the 3 original cemeteries in southeastern Wisconsin. There's just a lot of stuff going on here. It's just this vortex onto itself. So we have found remains in our basement. I'd love to have you come up and investigate my basement sometime. So, well, in a way. Yeah, A&E calls this the most haunted cellar in the country. So decide for yourself. But as you're downstairs, you get this sensation, and it changes, and the temperature changes for no apparent reason, and the heaviness. And you get the sensation that you're being sucked down into the ground. This is much lighter material, isn't it? You're being pulled into the ground. And the former cemetery, and then all the way in the back, in this little corner, there are 2 completely intact bodies. Well, skeletons at this point that go back to 1924, the same year that the Capones came. So they have a very approved method of hiding people, right?
I suppose they did.
Sure, Jimmy Hoffa. Why not? Anyway, we used this ground penetrating radar from Discovery World, which is a fine, fine institution. And you see bits and pieces everywhere, as you'd imagine, but there is all sorts of energy throughout my building. We had the little girl named Elizabeth, who was 8 years old, and she fell out of an apple tree in the cemetery, and she broke her neck. So way before Harry Potter, we've had the little girl in the restroom. She's very nice and playful. And then upstairs, I found the remains of one of the hospitality workers in the backside of the penthouse. And her name was Molly Brennan. She was 19. She began at 16 years old. Left home for, bigger pastures and skies or something else. And it was very limiting for what women could do in the 1920s and 30s in America. And she wanted no part of the standard scene, and she apparently had a skill set. So she really ran the entire 3rd floor and was very good at what she did. And then she was murdered there by somebody who wanted her to leave with her and hacked apart. And then I found her remains in 2001.
Wow. Wow.
So this is much lighter material.
Yeah, well, we like to go up there. When we go up there to film for the Crimson Theater, it's like I'm always have it on my mind, the getting there, the shoot, what we're going to talk about the movie, and then I walk in the place and it's like, oh, wait, I forgot, this thick atmosphere that's in the place. Just a great place for fun of all kinds. It's my bucket list to play there with the piano.
I appreciate that because, the beautiful thing about this time of year is that, and we always say we are no less haunted in March than we are October, but the vibe is different because we've got, it's just crazy with people, 150 to 200 people per night just for tours, not to mention our normal dinner business or just the normal bar business, or this time of year, all the political things taking place. It is an interesting mix of these incredibly attractive young women. You got the old guys smoking cigars and drinking brown spirits, and then everybody in between. And because we don't have monitors there, there's actually conversation taking place, whether it's about the ghost aspect or about food or about whatever it might be, like these new series on Netflix. And there's more coming, by the way. So don't be surprised if you don't see a little stage play coming up about Dahmer in the very near future.
Oh, Dahmer on Ice is next.
Well, why not, right?
It's a lot of, everybody's got to jump on the bandwagon, just like we did. I was like, get Bob down here.
Well, and here we are, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, the other thing about my tours is that we do tours 7 days a week. That's actually year-round. And this time of year, we might go from 4 or 5 per day to 12 or 15 per day, just for that as well. So it is really a busy little scene. The vibrancy is incredible. And we had a 3.0 tour take place last week. We have one more coming up with Michael Taylor that you might know from his myriad Netflix things. So twice a year he comes as a ghost hunter, ghostbuster kind of a thing. It's a 3-hour session, and That was sold out this last week. We got the next one on the 29th. We also have Isabella Rizzo coming up here
Yeah, I
doing
just noticed
seances.
she's a former Area 1051 radio guest.
She is
Yes,
indeed.
she is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from Transylvania originally, if you didn't know that, Romania.
Oh,
that
and that's
portion.
awesome. And that's a seance series, huh? October 29th?
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And hard for me to get anywhere. I'm swamped myself with the season. How'd you like that full moon?
I love that full moon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was great. The night before, Jupiter was very close to the full moon. So, yeah, we love that part of the Halloween season. Mine's a little bit different than yours, but we're both in our element now.
Oh, we are that. Very definitely.
Absolutely. It's a great thing, Halloween.
It truly is.
The only thing to me, though, I will say this, because I'm not a fan of the original Halloween movie at all. Basically because our classic monsters were more mythical. And, they did bad things and killed people, but it was, they were different. And they
Suspense, Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. But once they put the serial killer in the William Shatner mask, and then brought that horrible reality of our real world into the horror genre, nah, I'm not a fan. I did like Rob Zombie's version, but only because it's a Rob Zombie version, and then at some point has to become a Halloween movie, and then I like it less. So, what are you going to do? I just hope William Shatner is getting royalties from that mask. And he played a lawyer on television. He advertises for lawyers. So, he better be getting a piece of that action, because to this day, you walk into a local Halloween store, there's nothing but Michael Myers masks. And it's like, there's so many of them, they should be showing up in flea markets and Goodwill stores everywhere, but they're not.
I would suggest this year you'll see a preponderance of Dahmer masks everywhere.
Uh-huh. How about a nice Dr. Phibes mask? Huh? Sculpted by the doctor?
It's not just the Dr. Five, but you've got that skull that is so appropriate. You think about opening that refrigerator, and there it is, right?
Uh-huh. There you go. A little gift set from our girl in Wisconsin. I mean, now that was a pretty crazy thing that happened in Wisconsin, which reinforces that, Wisconsin, they won't just kill you, they'll make a lampshade out of you. Or this woman, her and this guy were going at it in rough whatever, and she just thought she'd just finish him off, and they found the guy's head in a crock pot, and she laughed about that. She couldn't believe she forgot that there.
Things happen.
She had him on
Get
slow.
preoccupied.
Huh?
That's what it was.
Low and slow.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! Good old Wisconsin, and of course, Ed Gein's another crazy story, which was focused on in that Alfred Hitchcock biopic that they did with Anthony Hopkins. Have you seen that?
I have not.
They got Michael Wincott playing Ed Gein in sort of dream sequence things with Hitchcock, and he's fantastic. They should have made a whole movie about Ed Gein with him in it, because he's a fantastic actor. That guy's amazing. You might have remembered him from The Crow. He was the villain in The Crow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's in Dead Man, the Johnny Depp movie. He's an interesting character in there. Yeah, our own Dead Man. Days of the Dead. He's kind of Day of the Dead all the time. Bradley the Gorilla, would you like to go with the Shaker sometime? Don't get too excited. But it's a great place. There's a Halloween season going on. You got to visit Shakers. I mean, I've been missing it up there myself for a nice crisp cider.
Well, not just the crisp ciders, we also have hot mulled cider for anybody taking the Cream City Cannibal Tour, because it is a bit brisk some nights.
Some nights it is going to be a bit brisk, yes.
Also have a lovely hot Coke would go with that.
I remember some of the fine hors d'oeuvres you served us. It's
There
been a
are-
while.
there are some
I missed the
delicious
place.
things
We
there.
were going up there quite regularly to film. So I'll have to bring you on the new set we're building for the
I would
Theater.
be honored, and of course, he must get you into the Shakers Milwaukee series on YouTube as well. There's now well over 300 different videos that are up there, and I'd love to have you participate with that. I mean, why not, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, we'll have to make a trip up there and do something special.
Excellent.
For sure. But your Cream City tours, when are they available?
Cream City Cannibal Tours are available Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, both as matinee and as evening productions. We are back to doing 10 o'clock at night, which is really an eerie experience. You are walking down the exact street that Dahmer did while he hunted his victims, and there is a sense that is there beyond just the darkness. It is, again, pervasive. And ghost tours are 7 days a week. We also have the Horning 20s tour, the Milwaukee Dead tour, the Tour 2.0, the 3.0 tour with, of course, Michael Taylor and Isabella coming up to do some seances. There's a lot going on at Shakers that everyone should participate with.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, well, it's your own fault.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have you gone. Area 1051 radio show again. And that's on AM 1050 WLIP and streamed at WLIP.com. You've been a regular guest there. Even broke the COVID story on January 23rd, 2020. Bob visited and started talking about this virus in China. And before anybody else on WLIP were talking about it, we broke that, or Bob broke that.
It's good to read. It's good to read.
Yeah.
And research is imperative. But hangmantours.com, hangmantours.com.
All right, thank you very much for joining us tonight, a very first edition of Area 1051 Television. You have a horrifying night.